Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session from Fragmented to Faceted. Today, we have Patty Ferreira, a high vibing African Latino Dominican York grandma of four, success catalyst, conscious community builder, and transformational leader and speaker. After over 25 years in corporate holding various business development and marketing positions, she transitioned into coaching. She is a way shower and a light holder for impact and mission driven professionals seeking to access their highest purpose, potential, and peace, and doing their inner work first. Ladies and gentlemen, I turn it over to Patty Ferreira.
Thank you, Tahara. You did amazing. I think that was wonderful. I so appreciate you. And I'm super excited to be here with everyone. I want to thank you for being part of this breakout session. I know that there are a lot of options, and having selected this one is an honor for me to share the next hour with you. I want to talk a little bit about how I felt when the Confederation asked me to speak. When I saw the theme being, building resilience through self reliance, I immediately said yes, because that is the key to the times that we're in. And I want to speak today to what that means and what are the things that you can do and what are the things that you can create in your life to make sure that you become a person that is resilient and self reliant. I chose to make this presentation a dialogue, a conversation. I am calling and speaking to your heart, speaking to your mind versus speaking to your brains and to your just maybe intellect. I want this to be an opportunity for self reflection. So I'm going to be putting out here a lot of concepts that are a little bit different than what we've talked about up until now in the corporate world and in our lives in general. So I am looking purposely to entice you into thinking about these concepts, this new way of seeing and thinking. I'm also looking to maybe trigger some of you into resistance or pushing back on the belief around some of these concepts, because when we go into these moments is that we have the opportunity to grow further. So I invite you to share your thoughts as I share my concepts in the chat. I would love this to be a dialogue, and I would love to hear what's coming up for you as I ask the questions that I will be asking throughout this conversation. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put things into perspective. I want to talk about the premise, right, of where we are today. Today, it's a new dawn. It's a new time. And it is time to rise. It is time for us to reemerge. So I want to talk about some of the concepts that we have been hearing lately. And a lot of this conversation is going to offer new perspectives for you to bring to your teams, to bring to your leadership style, to bring to how you deal with your customers, to the projects that you support. So, as you're hearing me speak, my invitation is for you to ask yourself, how can I make a shift in who I am and how I show up in the different roles that I, walk through life? So we want to know that we are in a zeitgeist. And I love this word. For me, words that are different and that are like interesting are always something that I'm going to introduce to the conversation and to the narrative. So, what is a zeitgeist? Zeitgeist is a German word, and it talks about the intellectual, moral, and cultural climate of an era. And as we all know, we're coming into a very different era, an era where the zeitgeist, the intellectual, the moral, the cultural climate has shifted. This is an era where there's reorganization of all our systems, right? We've already seen governments reorganizing, health system reorganizing, the school system reorganizing, politics reorganize. There's so much reorganization in our global collective to make the zeitgeist a shift. And that's what I want to talk about today. We are living an experience of massive breakdown, massive breakthroughs, and massive reorganizations, right? Some people are even calling this the fourth industrial revolution. Others are calling this the big reset, right? The opportunity where there is a total shift of how we do things. And what we know in our experience after the sacred pause, right? I call the sacred pause all of last year, the time in which we went into the pandemic, right? After the sacred pause, we know that there has been collective loss and collective awakening. And what we're experiencing right now during this reemergence is a collective call to the higher version of ourselves. Okay, so these are precious times. This is a time where we are being called as pioneers to this era and to what's coming up next. And I want this to be very like monumental to you. Like if you have not in your self-reflection come to the truth that you are here now because you in particular are being asked to support in this new building of the world, I'm here to give you that information and to share. And it doesn't matter what role you're in. It doesn't matter what title you hold. It doesn't matter how you're showing up. We are all here in this precious time to move forward and create the new. Now, these are precious times. And those of us that know that we're here to be pioneers are taking a stand for ourselves, for our truth, right? But you want to know that everyone's got a choice on how we move forward during these times. And that's why I decided to make our talk about moving from fragmented to faceted, right? Because some of us will remain stuck in the loss. And you may see people in your team, in your family, people that you're surrounded with or by that are stuck in the loss. They're still grieving or, resisting the new. And, this word around grieving is a very delicate and intimate experience. Some of us have had physical loss. Some of us have had personal relationship loss. But just the loss of our schedules, the loss of how we used to live life before creates a moment of choice, a choice point, like I call it. And some people may choose to be stuck. Others may choose to remain asleep, right? To really just stay in and I'm looking at the notes that says that the volume is really low. So please share with me if everyone is having difficulties with the volume, or Tahara, come in and let me know if I need to do something with the volume. But I want to make sure that everyone's being supported.
The volume is fine on my end, but probably you can turn it up a bit.
Okay, so I am, okay, and so is the organizer saying that they hear me. I just turned it up some more, and I'm hoping that for most of us it's clear. Okay, so we talked about the person that may be remaining stuck. There are also people that will choose to remain asleep. Remaining asleep is different from remaining stuck. Stuck is like not adapting to the new. not allowing yourself to look around and feel your surroundings and saying, okay, what do I need to do to be resilient and self-reliant? The sleep is the person that is bypassing and just coping. You know, those that are hiding or running or, standing behind, I'm too busy, or, I don't have time for this. The people that are maybe Netflixing or news binging or drinking, drugging, shopping, or anything that you are using to bypass really stepping up and stepping in and leaning in to being self-resilient and reliant is going to be a person that is asleep. And I mention these things because as business leaders, we get to see where everyone is situation so that we can meet them where they are and potentially usher them through to support this process, right? It's about being stronger together. And these are the ways that you can do that. And then there's a third aspect which people fall into, and that's the person that will seek to rise, the person that will do the work to become a higher version of themselves, the person that will tap into resilience and self-reliance and do the emotional, spiritual, professional, personal, physical work required to move upwards and forwards. So up until now, just to recap, I've shared that we are in a zeitgeist. I've specified the importance of knowing that you are a precious part of this zeitgeist. You are the one you are waiting for, and you are the one that is needed with all your flaws and all your talents needed to take this forward. The world, your community, your family, your organization, your clients, your projects. You are the one we've been waiting for. So my first question to you is, do you consider yourself someone that is stuck? And this is a personal question, you with you. It's okay. We're talking about building awareness, truth telling, right? Are you one that feels you are bypassing a little bit, right? Or are you the one that you feel is rising? And it could be a harmonious blend of the three. It's about knowing where you stand, you with yourself, right? And then I want to talk about what would be next once you've established where you are, right? So what's next is the requirement to unlock our mindset and open up to a higher level thinking and behaviors, right? No longer expensing our energies in fighting the old, rather reorganizing and elevating who we're being. Those are a lot of words. And every time I hear someone say we've got to tap into our higher self, or we get to connect into a higher version of ourselves, the question in the back of my mind is always, okay, that sounds awesome. How do we do that? What does that mean? And that's part of what I'm going to talk about today a little bit. The first thing I want to talk about is it requires going first. And this concept of going first is a huge concept because it's not only being the first online or being the first to lead others into doing things, but it's putting yourself through the experience, through the challenges, modeling what that means and what that entails first. So when I say going first as a form of tapping into resilience and being self-reliant, I'm talking about doing the thing first. So if you think resilience and self-reliance means something, you get to be the first to model that. And that's a huge ask. That's a huge call. And that's a huge request, right? Because we have moved into an age of leadership that is much, much more valued when it's modeled. when you are congruent with the things that you are requesting of others, when you would not request of anyone else anything that you're not prepared to do yourself, right? So these are all aspects of really tapping into the higher version of you and really tapping into being self-reliant, okay? So I want to talk about that a little bit more, and I'd love to get some dialogue on the chat just to help me feel that, you know, I'm not here alone and I'm being heard. And anything that's coming up for you, please share in the chat. That would really serve me powerfully. So I want to talk about reliance, right? That's what the topic is here and the theme. And one of the things that we want to make sure we leave here in the next couple of days of this conference is with a clear understanding of us in order to build the new. And reliance to me is about agility. It's about the elasticity with which you walk through life, making sure that you're pliable, flexible, adaptable. This is very different from the structure, right? And the doing things because I said so, or doing things because this is the way we've always done them approach. And I'm going to be giving you some clear guidelines as to how you could walk into that way of being. But first, let's clarify the term. What does reliance and resilience mean to you? So resilience is also the ability to catch really what we're talking about today, really creating a behavior and a way of being that allows us to bounce back and to be agile. Agility is one of the #1 characteristics that are looked for in employees today, in change makers. The ability to just be able to, you know, tap into what's going on and create the outcomes and the results that we want and we desire from a place of agility, from a place of tapping in and overcoming, right? So really look at what this means. We're not asking you to conform, to contort, or to become rigid, right? We are being asked to become like water, right? Resilience is about being agile. It's about going into flow. It's like I was mentioning the example of water and seeing things like when you look at a river, you see the river banks, right, which are the edge of the water, and then you're able to be the one that kind of flows in between it all. So these are the things that I want you to look at. I'm trying to get closer to the camera as I hear comments about the volume. Can you still hear me?
I'm hearing you fine, Patty. I'll check in the chat to see if Ralph is hearing better now.
Okay, I'll keep going for the sake of timing, but please let me know if you lose me entirely. And definitely share with me what you're thinking, as well as whether you can hear me or not. Just share with me what's coming up in terms of when I say this, the powerful example of resilience being like water. Water has the ability to break through rocks, right? And it's like flowing, and it allows to move and to be guided. So that's important about resilience. And then self-reliant is a beautiful one. This is about the and resources and finding we would, and it may there was a large population care about that, you know, things, government, policies, all the things outside of us would be taking care of us. And what self-reliant means is to depend and trust in one's power and resources. And this is a huge change when you're going into tapping into higher version of, because certainty, the certainty is the capacity to figure it out. That knowing that answers are going to be found from within you. And that's what's going to make a huge difference as we talk about these concepts. Okay, so I want to move in of 20 principles that I am introducing around higher level living, higher level thinking, and higher level leadership. Okay, I want to, are we still having issues with volume?
Hi, Patty. I'm not seeing you on camera anymore.
You're not seeing me on camera anymore?
No.
Okay, I will refresh it. I'm still on camera. Some are saying we are good in terms of camera and volume, and some are saying, hear me. Can you see me now? Okay, seeing me now and hearing us as well. Okay. Guys, this is what this is about being active. This is about being resourceful. So the test is on. I'm going to create the camera again. All right, so let's talk about the principles. These are codes that will unlock your higher self and help you tap into a higher level of living and higher level of leadership. And I'm not saying that these things are right or wrong. What I'm asking you is to consider this as a way of just clicking the wheel, turning it over a couple of notches, right? So like when you're working on volume, on upping it a notch, right? On bringing things upwards and forwards, this distinction from one to another is just going to take you to where you raise your way of behaving, your way of seeing things, and your way of walking through life. So I'm going to move on to the first distinction, right? So the first one that's going to shift from fearful and fragmented, right, to inflow and faceted, right, is time management versus energy management. So let me put it in the perspective of, what if you shifted from just managing time to managing your energy? And this is a way for you to move up to a higher level of living and a higher version of yourself. Up until now, we've focused very much on time management, right? That's the old way of doing things. If I have time to do it, I'll fit it in. We're very time focused. Time has become one of the main currencies, right? And what I'm inviting you to consider is to shift from how much time do I have and putting everything in as long as there's time to do it, to asking the question of how much energy do I have? When you make sure you ask the question, how much energy do I have? Come from that place of knowing that the energy with which you create your day, the energy with which you show up at a meeting, the energy with which you support a client, is the energy that will define the experience, right? So if you're coming in depleted, exhausted, running on empty, being pulled in every direction, or you're coming in worried about what others think, or low vibration, all those behaviors that we tend to stuff ourselves with and then go out and do the thing and hustle through and just go hard, that is going to be the energy with which life shows up for you. So if you want to be self-reliant, you want to bring in a concept of taking care of your energy. And for some of us, this may sound a little bit selfish because we've been taught that, putting ourselves first is selfish. And that's the invitation, to change how you see things, right? When you realize that filling your cup, right, is going to be the thing that makes the huge difference in how you go about your day, take more time to doing that. So the first concept is the old way was time management. The invitation to the new way is energy management, right? And coming from a state of mind that if I've got the energy for it, I could really show up for it versus if I've got time and my calendar's open, then just stick it in there. First concept that's important to how we're going to move into self reliance and resourcefulness. The second concept is devotion versus discipline. And I'd love to start to see some questions if you have some doubts or if you want to discuss maybe how this next concept of discipline, devotion. And the word versus is not what I would want to use. I'm talking about going from a place of discipline and upping it a couple of notches to where it's devotion, right? So discipline gets us pretty far, right? If you're doing things on a regular basis and you're consistent and you're making them happy, happen regularly, there's going to be a level of outcome from just that. But the world we're moving into is going to require more than that. It's going to require you getting devoted and being devoted to the thing, right? So your devotion is going to come from your why versus from the pushing, the pulling of you doing it from the outside, right? I show up at work on time. This is a simple example, but so that you understand the concept. I show up at work on time because I don't want other people to think a certain way about me, or I don't want to be called out, right? That is a discipline that you create based on the outside conditions, right? Something that you are looking to happen from outside of us versus I show up to work on time because when I get in the morning and have enough time to do my own thing, it just makes me feel so much spacious and so much more productive. And feeling productive makes me feel good. One is discipline, right? The other one is devotion. And tweaking the way you approach things from discipline to devotion is important, right? And how I relate it to things in life. I'm going to give you a couple of exercises that you can jot down so that you can go back to. Maybe are, and you can write this down. It's part of my shed your shoulds and shine signature that I walk my clients through. And it's like right on the top of one of the lists, I should do this. On the top of the next one, I need to do this. And then the third list is I want to do this. And the last is I love to do this. So I should do this, all the things that you feel you should. I need to do this. I want to do this. And I love to do this. If you write these things down and you write down all the things that you feel you should and all the things that you feel you love and everything in between, you'll have 4 lists that consist of everything that you're doing in life. So the next step after you complete the list, and this is in order for you to know what you are doing as a discipline and because it's coming from outside of you, an imposed behavior versus a devoted behavior, something that you feel you're called to, right? Once you complete the 4 lists, right? Look at what's on your I should list. I should do this list. Your list to either because it's for livelihood, like I need to make an income, right? I need to take care of my body and my health. I want to do this and I love to. So everything on your I should do this list gets to move to one of the other three lists. If it's not in one of the other three lists, you get to ask yourself serious questions about why this is on there to begin with and how you could just take it off the list, because it's not a devotion. It's not even serving you. If you're only doing it because you should, this is a moment of self-reflection that you get to go into and see how you could make this a get to do this or need to do this experience. How can you shift the way you look at it, or how you can get it off your list? And this is a very important exercise of self reflection that will start to answer a lot of the questions around why am I overwhelmed? Why do I feel like I've lost myself? Why do I feel so fragmented? Why can't I get ahead at work? Why can't I attract the high level clients that I'd like to, or the energy rich clients that I want to work with? These are the fundamental questions that will guide you towards this shift. The other thing is, the next concept is going from attached to equanimity. From attached to equanimity. And again, very interesting concept and choice of words, right? Which is the old way of doing things, right? We are coming from a place of doing the thing because of the result we want. Very similar to doing the thing because we want it to go a certain way, right? Having to be graspy and clutchy around the thing, having to look exactly a certain way, or needing it to remain a particular way. If we're going to be resilient and self-reliant, we get to be detached. Of being all in, completely devoted to the thing. Like I'm showing up energy rich, and I'm to look at it from different perspectives. I'm open to remain curious as I'm in it to see if there's another approach to it, right? And this is a very important shift to being self-reliant, because it comes from the concept of, as I remain open and transparent and curious and neutral, I am much more self-reliant. I am much more able to be creative and innovative and look at things from a different perspective. And this is very different from how we've looked at things in the past, right? When you come into a sales conversation, when you come into a negotiation, when you come into a project meeting, when you come into a conversation with someone else, you can tell the difference of when someone is attached, grasping on the way it should be or the expectations, versus when someone is all in, completely engaged, curious and neutral, right? And just finding ways to get to the outcome without it having to look a certain way. So that's a third point that's going to make a huge difference in you becoming self-reliant. Okay. The next one is balance to blend. We've all heard the work-life balance concept, right? And even when I think about it as a visual, and you think about the visual of a balance, it becomes very heavy, right? Because you've got to carry all things at the same level with the same degree of power, and that is not realistic. That is not human. So my invitation is to shift from trying to balance everything to finding your harmonious blend. Finding your blend, and your blend is ever changing, knowing that we're ever changing, right? And your blend is going to be impacted by the season that we're in, right? You may be in, I don't know, end of school season where your blend in your work and your life shifts, versus what it looks like when you're, I don't know, beginning of the year. So your particular ability to shift from trying to balance everything to blending the areas of your life, like if it was a smoothie, right, where it has that level of resilience and agility and pliability, is what's going to be the longer game for you. It's what's going to keep you energy rich. Okay. And then the last concept that I want to talk to you about is strategy versus vision. And this is a big one because we have up until now been very strategy focused. Okay. We've been very much focused on the how we do things, how things get done, the process, right? And the procedures and, you know, the medicine. And that's all fine. We need all of that. And when you look at the vision, it gives you the agility, it gives you the resilience, the self-reliance to shift and to turn and to mold into the realities, right? If we are sticking to a strategy, imagine if we would have stuck to the same exact strategy of working throughout the pandemic when everything shut down. It's like, well, we can't go to the office and that's the only way we know how to do things. So no, everyone pivoted. We've been taught by the experience to be agile. And now it's sticking to the vision, to the North Star, to the goals, to the bigger thing that we want to create, and adapting the journey. So when you're a leader that's self-reliant and that's resilient, you're going to sell people on the vision. You're going to enroll people on the vision, and you're going to leave room for them to find innovative, creative, resourceful ways of doing things, because our lives, when we're neutral enough to see things differently and to explore things differently, to where we could develop new processes, develop new products, develop new standards of operations. But if we're stuck in the how we do things, it doesn't give us the ability to tap into that higher version of us, right? So always stay connected to the power and the activation and the inspiration and the openness that can come from you understanding and connecting to the vision while being detached necessarily from the how. So those are the five concepts that I want to deliver for you today. I'm interested about timing, Tahara, because I know that I'm about 45 minutes in on my end, but I do want to leave you with a end thought, right? I have a document that I've shared. It's a follow-up document that is an invitation for you to sit in a quiet space and look at the questions that can help you, you know, bring yourself through this concept, right, of resilient and self-reliant. Bring yourself through this concept that I'm introducing of going from fearful and fragmented to inflow and faceted. And in that follow-up document, you know, you're going to have some questions that are going to hopefully bring up whether you're stuck, whether you're bypassing, whether you're open to some of these new concepts. But I do want to leave you with the thought and maybe one question to start us off, which is, you know, these principles may contradict your current beliefs. They may contradict your personal agreements, yourself with yourself, your agreements, you with your family, you with your ancestry, and the things that we've been known to believe up until now. It may contradict the social conditioning that you've experienced up to now, or the lived experiences. And that's exactly where we are right now. Right now, we are in a moment of asking the deeper questions, right? We're in a moment of building the new. And it is only in looking into the dense parts that feel uncomfortable that feel like contradiction, that feel like, the entire system has been turned upside down, is that we will find the new and we will find our place in the world. It is no longer about putting what other people think before your own thoughts. It is not about serving others before serving yourself. It is not about, being hard on yourself. It is not about buying into self struggle and hustling and pushing through and going hard. It is about caring for yourself, bringing in a level of self care, self acceptance, self trust, self efficacy, self reliance that will get you through no matter what happens. So, the question I leave you with is, how do you deal with adversity? How do you show up when things aren't going your way? That's one of the first questions in the follow-up doc, and that's one of the questions I'd like to leave you with during this conversation. That is what I have for you today. These are 5 of the 20 concepts that will help you turn the notch a couple of levers to the right where you can tap into your higher self. I'm happy to share all of them or more of them. I hope you have access to me through the information that's being given about the speakers. And I'm here to support you if you feel you would like deeper ushering into these concepts. Tahara, if you have any questions or if there's any questions coming up about this, I'm open for that now.
Again, everyone, we would like to thank Patty for her presentation. And Patty, one thing I've learned, if I've learned nothing else, one thing I learned is the new word zeitgeist.
Yes. Did you like that one? I like that one.
I love that one. I love that one.
Yeah, it almost makes me feel like I could speak German.
Exactly. Do we have any questions? If we have any questions, you can post them in the chat. Jacqueline says, insightful presentation. But if there are any questions, you can post them in the chat. And Roxanne is a great presentation.
Yes. Well, in the follow-up document, you have access to my email, which I invite all of you to reach out, share your thoughts, make it a dialogue. If you'd like to have more of a direct connection with me, feel free to send me an email. My focus is on being a success catalyst. So really meeting you where you are right now and helping you reemerge during this time. It is one of the most important missions that I feel we all have during this time. And if you'd like support moving upwards and forwards, I'm here to guide you powerfully.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Roxanne has asked, have you tried to do this implementation within organizations?
Yes, I do a lot of actual organization training where we bring the concepts and we make them very fit for purpose. So it's one thing when we talk about, discipline, moving upwards to devotion as a concept, which is what we've talked about today. But when I bring it to the organization as a training, we're actually looking at what the specifics of the organization is at all the different levels, right? And then bringing the concept, really grounding it, even as far as taking it to the personal, right? Because we are the ones that are going to be making a difference. So implementing this within organizations is crucial. If not, it just kind of stays as a concept versus really making it a behavior that we're incorporating into everything that we're creating. So absolutely I have, and it's a very rich experience when the organization starts to look at doing the work from within, from the beliefs, from the way that they behave versus from the strategy and like, you know, the standards of operation. It just becomes a very rich experience.
So much for that. Any further questions? Stanley Spencer says, great presentation. So,
Thank you.
yeah, so everyone seems to be pleased with your presentation. Now, I have a quick questions. I'm seeing that there are no more questions posted in the chat. You spoke about a person who's stuck, a person who bypasses, and a person who seeks to rise.
Yes.
Okay, now, have you encountered any of these types of persons, and what is your advice to them?
Yeah, so you know, the one that is stuck is the one that speaks most to my heart. That is what I feel is my mission. That is how I created this this process, because I myself was stuck. I went through an experience in my life where I lost my mother and just had like an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was or why I was doing the things that I was doing in life and why they were important. And stuckness is something that we all experience at different levels. Like you could be stuck in a time throughout your day. You could be stuck in a project. You could be stuck in an experience in your life. You could be stuck in an area of your life. So this concept of being stuck, I think, is more common than not. A lot of us, if we look inward, you know, we can be stuck in a way of behaving, how we eat or how we think of others, you know. So I want to make this concept of stuck mainstream and invite everyone to maybe ask the question, where am I stuck, versus have I come across like people that are stuck? Because I'd like to like remove the feeling of shame, blame, or guilt that may come from the awareness, the self-awareness of being stuck, and make it something commonplace that we get to say, yes, I'm stuck, and I move forward in this slowly but surely. And the reason I say that is because what I know has been the biggest shift for someone that is stuck is the awareness around it, is the awareness. Because if you don't know that you're stuck, then you're bypassing. You're probably keeping yourself busy. You're probably doing other things that are going to help you cope, that are helping you move away from the experience of being stuck. And, you know, when we talk about flight, fight, freeze, or fawn, these are 4 ways in which people avoid being stuck, right? They rather not feel it and act as if other things are being prioritized or other things are being needed to focus on. So when I think of people that are stuck, my heart speaks to them, because it's kind of an underlying thing that could exist for a very long time, and we not even look at it because we have such a high resistance to pain and we just live with it, right? So there's a lot of different ways in which people that are stuck show up, and we as society has either like rewarded them for it, right? So someone that's busy and always doing other things and always pushing is rewarded, but that can potentially be a coping mechanism because they're truly stuck. So I'm hoping this answers your question, and it lets you know that I have come across many people that are stuck, and being stuck is the first step to rising.
Being stuck is the first step to rising, because I'm positive that many of us, feel stuck and we just don't know how to get over that so that we can rise to the occasion. So I'm grateful that you explained that.
Oh, yes.
A bit further. Let me check. I'm checking the chat to see if there are any more questions. I'm not seeing any more questions at the moment. So I don't know if you want to just go over any concepts, Patty, or Do you have any other concept you just want to go over?
Well, I think that what we've provided up until now is a lot. I think it's important for everyone to kind of sink their teeth into what I've shared and really see what speaks to you. If my invitation would be to kind of listen to what I've shared and feel into what feels most conflictive, like what feels like nails on a chalkboard, right? Because that's where you could tap into where there's resistance, right? That's where you could connect to potential challenges that your soul is being called to, but your ego, right, your current walking through this dimension and world version of yourself is like trying to keep you safe from, because changing is scary. So if there's anything that I've said that is like, triggering or causing like a violent reaction, I'm exaggerating, but so that you can kind of sense, okay, what in this is like true. The piece I invite you to sit with, the piece I invite you to look into. And the other piece that I would like to really put out there for everyone is that we're no longer meant to do things alone. We're no longer meant to figure things out on our own and to kind of go off and withdraw on our own and push through things. We are being called to really feed into the human need to belong, the human need to contribute, the human need to be part of something bigger. So I ask you, women, men, all in between, to please find your tribe, to seek out a place where you can feel seen, where you can feel safe, where you can feel that you can give and you can receive. One of the things that I've done is create a membership, a beloved boss lady success circle, where women can come and deal with these issues together, because we are a mirror of each other. What I am dealing with is going to support you. And when I take a stand for myself, it's also going to help you take a stand for you. So really doing this together is important.
A question from Prudencia. Many
Okay.
persons within an organization are resistant to change. How have your strategies been helpful to get these persons up to the level to contribute fully and buy into this strategy?
Okay, so the biggest thing that we know about change is fear, right? The reason we resist change is because we have an deep embedded fear of the unknown, right? And there's a lot of ways for us to move towards change management, change acceptance, and befriending change. One of the ways that is very powerful is having an individual look at how things have changed in the past and they have come out of it, right? How they have risen on the other side of change. So I call that, you know, um, your self inventory, where you're going back and looking at the nuggets of when you have been pushed through change and you have come out on the other side, right? And this past year is a very good example of that. So we're sitting on the other side of a clear collective example of how when change is forced upon us, we rise. And once an individual has that confidence, right, we can usher them through change. My dad used to train boxers, and the one thing he told me is the only way you can get a boxer to really win is to convince him that he can, and to build the confidence that he will rise, that he will get to the other side of it. And that's the main thing around change. And then the ways we get them to build that confidence, there's so many tools, so many modalities. And this is where we get to meet the organization where they are. Some organizations, their highest resistance to change could be one factor. And in another organization, the resistance to change could be another factor. But the common denominator is there's fear behind it, right? And what is the fear? Is it the fear of safety? Is it the fear of, people's fears lie very deeply within. So yes, the idea to bring this into an organization is a very fit for purpose strategy. But knowing that resistance to change is fear is the first thing. And having the compassion to deal with it as a fear is going to be the most successful approach. Because when you know that you're dealing with a person's deeply embedded beliefs and agreements, you're going to deal with them differently than if you just think we're going to impose this rule or this law or this process and people are just going to do it. I hope this helps and answers your question, Prudencia.
Thank you so much, Patty. I think we may be out of time, but I see Prudencia has a follow-up question. I agree with fear, but what about complacency?
Yes, complacency is the bypassing, right? It's a way of bypassing where people are just going to coast through life. They're not going to step up to the edge. They're just going to kind of stay in a place of, I'm just going to sit here and watch this play out, right? And that is very much something that the organization gets to evaluate, right? What is it if we have a whole bunch of people in this? We get to look 80, not right. It's not a different problem here. When we're dealing with complacency and people that are not engaged and people that are not, showing up energy rich, we can't even start to talk about change, right? That's a totally different conversation, a totally different set of resources that we would apply for that. But complacency needs to be looked at from the inside out and from the outside in. Is it a cultural thing? Have we built an organization of complacency, right? Is it a leadership thing? Is it top down? Is it bottom up? So yes, these are all things that we get to look at from very different ways, always. What is this offering in order to make better? This is the lens of victim, woe is us, everyone's complacent and sad and in victim, or villain, whoever doesn't kind of figure it out has to do their own thing or find their own way, right? Or finger pointing. So either of these problems get to be looked at from a place of, what is in this to help us rise, to help us become a better version in terms of organization, in terms of individual. I hope this helps. These are really good questions. You guys are awesome.
I agree, Patty. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this session. We would like to thank Patty Ferreira for her most informative and insightful presentation. And she has added a PDF worksheet that is in the chat. You can click on the worksheet for more information. Patty, we'd like to thank you very much, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of the convention.